Good morning, all, and may I request everyone standing at the back there to take your seats, please? We're going to start soon. My name is Sunny Chandy. I'm from APNIC, and it's a very warm welcome to APNIC 40 here. Before we begin, we have a safety briefing from the hotel, so I invite the hotel staff to come and do the safety briefing, and then after that, we'll move into the opening ceremony. Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Ritz-Carlton Jakarta Mega Kuningan. My name is Epi Mutakin. I am the chief security of this hotel. Please allow me to conduct a four-form safety briefing before this event start. This room is equipped with smoke detector, fire sprinkler, and public addresses. Should you hear any alarm, please stay calm and follow the instruction given by the hotel operator. At the same time, the hotel fire response team will go to the source of the alarm for investigation. And in case of emergency, please evacuate this area using the available exit door. And the staircase is located in the corner. There are 3 staircases going down to our ground floor. The assembly point is located in the empty land next to Menara Prima. Today, we don't have any plan to conduct drill, so hopefully there would be no alarm sound while bothering this meeting. Thank you for the attention and have a great meeting. Thank you.
Thank you for that safety briefing. And now I'd like to special welcome to Mr. Rudiantara, Minister of Communications and Information Technology, who will be joining us a bit later. I would like to start by acknowledging our wonderful local host, ABGI, as well as our distinguished guests, our expert conference speakers, presenters, and every single person who is attending this conference here as an important part of the Asia-Pacific Internet community. I would like to now have the great pleasure in inviting APNIC Executive Council Chair, Maimura Akinori-san, to the microphone to officially welcome you all. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much, Sunny. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to APNIC 40, being held in Indonesia's exciting capital city, Jakarta. My name is Maimura Akinori. I'm the chair of the APNIC Executive Council. I'm very happy to see so many faces of friends and colleagues of the APNIC community who have been long working together. At the same time, I am heartened at many new faces I can see in this venue. I heard the number of the registration to this conference has already exceeded 500, which is the greatest ever in the history of the APNIC standalone conferences. Welcome to APNIC community. Welcome to the community that has been and is working on building, maintaining, and expanding the internet infrastructure in our region. My sincerest thanks go to Minister Rudiantara, Indonesia's Minister of Communications and IT, joining us today throughout quite tight schedule and still on his way to here. I'm very much looking forward to hearing his insights into the internet development in Indonesia. I'd like to extend my great thanks to ABGI, our local host who has made this great conference happen, and long friends for more than a decade. Without waiting for today, I have already been overwhelmed with your hospitality, and I am more than sure that colleagues who get together here will enjoy this week. I'd like to acknowledge our colleagues here today, Mr. Lim Chun-sai, the board chairman of APTLD, and Jamal Izza, chairman of APG. Country code top-level domain names are the integral part of the Internet Foundation and working hard in each respective countries. I'm happy that APTLD collocates again with the APNIC conference and expect we can keep on working together and expand the collaboration in future. As you can see by the many names behind me, we have had a very supportive response from our committee of sponsors. I'd like to extend my sincere gratitude for their ongoing commitment so that the APNIC community can enrich the knowledge and the networking. Our previous opportunity for us to get together was Apricot APAN 2015 in March this year in my hometown, Fukuoka, Japan. It was very delightful, but we have unfortunate happenings time to time. It was just after that Apricot, Cyclone Pam devastated Vanuatu and other Pacific islands, and Nepal experienced one of the most destructive earthquakes on record. They were truly heartbreaking events. However, the way our community rallied to support our regional peers, providing the internet infrastructure, funds, and expertise to support rebuilding the internet in these locations were uplifting. This is, to me, a perfect example of the collaborative, supportive character of our community. If you want to find more about how technical teams work to restore the services after the disaster, I recommend both sessions at 5:30 p.m. on disaster preparedness. This year is the first time for us to run the conference program in 3 days. While the event is shorter, the agenda is very strong and full of excellent sessions as usual or even more. I'm looking forward to the keynote presentation in this session by Johar Alam Languti and Barry Green after opening remarks. They will bring you a lot of insight and knowledge from their long and rich experience. They will be followed a range of interesting technical presentations today and tomorrow. Although every session is great with rich contents, that is only a part of the value of APNIC conferences. Perhaps the biggest value is the opportunity to reconnect with your colleagues, foster your connections, and learn from each other's experience. There will be lots of opportunity to get to know your peers at the conference, and opening social tonight, meet the EC drinks tomorrow, and closing social on Thursday. Our community comprises many different cultures, skills, and specializations. This diversity is one of the APNIC community's greatest strengths and values. APNIC 40 is all about participation, sharing the experience, and collaborating to harness this diversity. I encourage all of you to make the most of the time here to learn, to network, and to actively participate in as many sessions as possible, which will further strengthen the Asia-Pacific Internet. Now, I have the great pleasure as the chair of the APNIC Executive Council for the community to declare APNIC 40 conference open. Thank you very much. どうもありがとうございました。And terima kasih banyak.
Arigato Akinori-san for that excellent opening remarks. And now I would like to invite the chair of APG, Mr. Jamalul Izza, for his speech.
Honorable partner APNIC, the AC member, Paul, Sanjaya, and all the APNIC team. Distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. It gives me pleasure to speak to you this morning, to welcome you most cordially at the official opening ceremony of the 40th APNIC conference. It's indeed our pleasure for APG to host such a prestigious international event. Of course, this can never happen with all effort taken by previous board, member of APG, as well as the hard work of the conference committee, and everybody who has been helping to make this event possible. My sense gratitude to all of you. Your Excellency, Mr. Minister, ladies and gentlemen, APG is actually the first, probably the largest internet organization in Indonesia. Next year, APG will be 20 years old. According to our last year survey, Indonesia internet user has been growing from 16 to 18.8 million in 9 years. Last year growth was 17 million user per year, 23 growth. The internet we know in the beginning was messages and email service. Then we started to use browse only to access information, and now we can do almost anything over the internet, from processing online, voice conversation, video conferencing, to ordering motorbike, taxi, or we call it object. And all of them is done on top of what we know as internet protocol, or simply process the internet. The parties involved in delivering this service also become numerous, from just an SSP in the early days, and now their data center operator, cloud operator, content provider, game provider, payment gateway provider, e-commerce provider, and so many other service provider. Again, they are all providing their service using internet protocol or internet. Internet protocol works as the has name and numbers. In the early days of APG, we managed both names and numbers for Indonesia Internet. Now we manage number for Indonesia Internet in partnership with IPNIC. With the internet evolving, APG needs to evolve as well, providing home to more provider, more stakeholder. APG, which is used to be the home only for the ISPs, will shortly be the home for anybody, any institution who runs service using internet protocol, and this is going to happen this year. This APNIC 40th conference is one of the highlights which reflect IPNIC and APG long and strong relationship. And we thank you, IPNIC, for such confidence to confidently partner with APG. APG's continuing role in the industry can happen only with the support from government in various occasions. APG has always been invited by the government to give input within government policy-making process. And for this, we would like to express our gratitude as well as high hopes that we would like to express our gratitude as well. Relation between the government and APG will become even stronger. Last but not least, we thank you to all delegates for participating in conference. Because of you, we now have new record of APNIC conference. Attendance is over than 500 participants. Thank you. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Terima kasih Jamalul for that welcome note. I now would like to invite Lin Chumsai, the APTLD board chair, to the stage for his note.
Good morning, distinguished guests, colleagues, and friends, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Lim Chun Sai. I'm the chair of APTLD. It is my great pleasure to welcome you on behalf of APTLD and to extend our appreciation to the government of Indonesia, the local internet community, and our colleagues from Pandi for their commitment and hospitality, and for APNIC for spearheading the preparation for this, the APNIC 40. APTLD is the regional platform for dialogue, exchange of expertise and sharing of best practices in the operations of CCTLD. And APTLD unites 40 over country code top level domain names. As a regional organization in the name community, APTLD promote the country code top level domain names online and is keen to contribute to the expansion of robust, uninterrupted, and resilient internet in the Asia Pacific region. We are therefore delighted to have the opportunity to collaborate with APNIC and other partner organizations such as ICANN, ISOC, and ISTAR organizations to achieve the common goal. Internet is a global public good and unique asset. APTLD commends the collaborative effort led by the international and the regional organizations concerned with internet to make sure that internet meets the community interests and aspirations. And APTLD is keen to do its part to contribute to the achievement of this objective. And in this regard, we are very glad that we have the opportunity to work with so many organizations in achieving this common objective. And once again, thank you very much for the attendance, and once again, thank you APNIC for having the opportunity to work with you. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Chunsai. Now we have a special treat. We have the Forever Dancers who will be performing an Indonesian traditional dance on the stage here. And then we will move on to the next speakers. Thank you.
Urang nganti
They are called forever dances, and as you can see, they can dance forever and entertain for us forever. But we have to start with the technical keynotes as soon as we get this one set up. This has to be the presentation. Okay, the technical keynotes. I would like to now welcome Johar Alam Rangkuti, Chairman of Internet Data Center, Indonesia, and the Administrator of OpenIX. Johar founded IDC Indonesia, Indonesia's largest center, neutral data center in 2000, and has held a number of roles over the years, including heading ABGI, Indonesia's Internet Service Provider Association, and establishing his own ISP, Advisory Consultancy. Johar is an advocate for internet exchanges and is an in-demand speaker at many national and international forums. I would like to now invite Johar for his technical keynote. Thank you.
So I'm going to speak here, I guess. Hi, good morning. Hello world, my name is Johar Alam Rangkuti. I am Tukang Internet. Roughly speaking, that means I am the Internet Smith of Indonesia, whatever that means. And I am also the chairman of IDC Indonesia and the chief administrator of the Open Internet Exchange Point. Now at this point, I would like to thank APNIC because I have been traveling around the world. I've been speaking in Egypt all the way to the Philippines, to Australia, to Malaysia, and every country I can think of. But thank you, APNIC, Mr. Paul Wilson, Mr. Sanjaya. Finally, I am able to speak in my own country of Indonesia. Okay, so when I was asked to explain about what is actually an internet exchange point and what is connecting the internet exchange point of the region, I thought this will be the fastest presentation ever because I can explain this. It's only 2 slides and I'm done. What is an IXP? That is it. That's an IXP. It's a switch. It is a switch, a layer 2 switch. All right, so I don't see you're impressed. Okay, how about this? It is a switch with a bunch of routers connected to it. That is an IXP. And what's cool about this, I did some cool animations on the wordings IXP, if you saw that. Okay, so that is basically an IXP. I see Mr. Barry Green here, so no, that's not complete. Okay, fine. An IXP is all that with a BGP speaker. How about that? Okay, so that is an internet exchange point. Basically, that is all what we're talking about. So that's the first slide. And my second slide to conclude this is, so what is connecting regional IXPs? That's it. You connect the 3 switches of the Malaysian Internet Exchange, the Philippine Exchange, and the Indonesian Exchange as a cascade, and you're done. Am I done? Is that it? Okay, all right, fine. Okay, up until this point, this is what we have been doing last year. So this is recently, this is done. Okay, so I'm supposed to be here with 2 of my colleagues, Mr. Bani Lara from the Philippines and Mr. Afzal from Malaysia. I did tell them to come over, and they have packed their bags, they prepared. I just forgot to tell them when. So I think they're still in Manila and Malaysia waiting for me to tell them to go. So if this is live stream, My apologies to Banilara and Afzal for not being here. But I would like to take this opportunity to tell you a bit about the Indonesian internet and basically how we get to this point. 1993, we had some kind of an internet in Indonesia. It was just Luhkai and Bagio Budiarjo. They made this paper on University of Indonesia, and it looks something like this. So this was kind of the start of the internet. In 1998, we have our first IP address, which was assigned to the University of Indonesia. 1993, we handled our own top-level domain, which is a .id. 1994, Mr. Sanjaya launched the first commercial Indonesian ISP. And by 1997, together with Mr. Barry Green, we created the Indonesian Internet Exchange. And also, we became the National Internet Registry of APNIC in 1998 after Japan, China, South Korea, and Taiwan. So that is a decade of the Indonesian internet in my slides. What happened in the next 10 years is the Indonesian users rose from 500,000 users in 1998 to 2 million users in 2000. So that was a big jump. Our peak traffic back in 2000 was 3 megs. So when I'm talking about local peak traffic, that means from Indonesia to Indonesia only. The traffic going from Indonesia outside of Indonesia, Facebook, Google, is not counted here. So this is truly the local traffic of Indonesia. The peak is 3 megs. In the year 2000, we also established the Internet Data Center, the first carrier-neutral data center in Indonesia. And by 2004, we have established IPv6, not as a testbed, running pure IPv6 in Indonesia. And 2005, we created the OpenIXP. So after 2005, I don't know, I'm stumbling here, we have grown so much. Indonesia has grown so much. By 2012, the peak traffic of Indonesia Exchange is 67.4 gigs. And the number of users has grown from 2 million to 55 million. Internet penetration rate is now 22%. That is the number of population using divided by that. Okay, this is what happens in Indonesia in 12 years. Our population has grown from 234 million to 245 million. Our internet users has grown from 2 million to 55 million. Our local peak traffic of Indonesia has grown from 3 megs to 67.4 gigs in 12 years. Now, if that's not impressive enough, this is what it looks like in percentage. Our population growth is 9%. Internet users growth is 2,650%. Our local traffic has grown 2,246,567%. So in 12 years, because of an exchange of a local IXP, the local traffic has grown 2 million, where is that? 2 million %. Can you do the before slide? Sorry. Hi. I'm stuck here. Previous. Okay, so in 12 years, and can I use that mic? So what we have done is, we're waiting for this. Okay. Back. Isn't working? It's probably the slides. I can't. Okay. Nope. Okay, so I guess I couldn't go back. Can you do a manual back? Okay, I'll just say click. All right, so we'll wait for this. But what I'm trying to show is in 12 years of the Indonesian internet local exchange, we have managed to grow a very significant traffic, which is a growth from 3 megs to 64.7 giga in 12 years. So that is a growth of more than 2 million% in 12 years. So there's supposed to be a graph here. So I'm trying to put it on, but I don't think it's showing. It isn't showing there? No? All right. So back to this. The local peak traffic now currently is, there's 2 cruise slides that you should have seen. Local peak traffic today is 180 gigs. And we are now connecting 629 AS numbers and announcing 6,402 routes. This is what it looks like in 2006. This is the Open IXP. So you have that middle center National Internet Exchange, which connects ISPs, which is in the blue. Now, if you don't like this beautiful picture, you can see a more technical picture, which kinds of looks like this. So this was back in 2006, 2007. We had 100 peers then. Now it's the same picture, except we have 629 little dots outside of it. So the Open IXP belongs to the same people that owns the internet. So I always have that question. So who owns this? The Open IXP handles all the traffic in Indonesia, all the government traffic, all the military traffic, all the commercial traffic, but who actually owns the Open IXP? The correct answer that I can give you is the Open IXP is owned by the same people that owns the internet. Now, connecting the ISPs. What we have done currently is connecting the Open IXP, the Philippine OpenIX, and the Malaysian Exchange. What we did was actually just 3 simple steps. Number 1, we established BGP. So as you can see, that's my dialogue with Bani Lara, and at the end I said, okay, BGP established. Step 1. Step 2 is check the BGP announcements. So we have this BGP announcement from Bani, which says, yes, I can see 7717 from DCBN's website. And number 3 is check the latency. So with these 3 steps, we managed to connect the Open IXP with the IIX. The challenges of having an IXP at this stage is CDNs. So having an IXP nationally wasn't something that was expected from CDNs. What happened in Indonesia is, out of the 629 networks, Akamai has installations in 20 of them. Now, Akamai also has an installation that connects directly to the Open IXP. But with this configuration, what we found out is most of the ISPs connected to the Open IXP that does not have an Akamai installation is not catered from the Akamai installation that is connected to the Open IXP, but connected elsewhere. Now, this has something to do with the way Akamai handles the algorithm of the DNS request and the BGP, finding the shortest path, which they have no idea that all these peers are actually connected to one single switch. We have since talked to Akamai, and I think they're bringing up some more servers, and they will remedy that. Number 2 is what we found out when we connected the Indonesian Indonesian exchange point to the Philippine OpenIX is Indonesian YouTube users are now catered by the Google Cache in the Philippines. So there is no way when we created that Google thought that an exchange of one country will be connected to exchange of another country, which makes this a messy situation where you are actually given caches from another country. So, why connect the IXPs? Because it's fun. That is my answer. Why not? It's fun. Connecting three ISPs is just connecting three single switches. Okay, so I guess my graphic will not show again. Yep. Sorry about that. So this is supposed to be a graph, the internet rank of, by numbers of users. Why connect the IXPs? This is Indonesia currently. We are number 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, largest internet users in the world with 82 million active internet users. Connecting the ISPs means we add the Philippines users, which is 43 million, with the Malaysian users of 19.2 million. So what we get when we connect the three exchanges now is Indonesia, Philippines, Malaysia now becomes the 4th largest internet users in the world, because now we are a single network. A national IXP is created by the country's internet users. So internet users are the people that creates the IXPs. Regional IXPs are created by the national IXPs together. And we've become the 4th largest internet globally. And I think that's about it. So connecting an ISP is just about connecting the switches, connecting the routers. You get this big number of users, and let's make the internet fun again. And that's it. Thank you.
Terima kasih Johar for that insightful Indonesian history of internet. The next speaker is Barry Green. He has 30 years of industry experience and is a pioneer in the fields of service providers, security resilience, and industry security reaction teams. Barry Green is a passionate internet technologist, entrepreneur, cybersecurity expert, mentor, and executive leader working with startups in their most critical growth phases. As you heard from Johar, he was helping the Indonesian IX as well. Barry Green.
Yep. I'll use this. We'll see. Mic on? Okay, very good. And the slides? Excellent. There we go. All right. So, good morning, everyone. Thank you. This is a very good, very good showing of APNIC meeting. So, thank you, everyone, for coming here. All you who are first-timers, please take advantage and meet everybody during the breaks. That's one of the best parts of APNIC is meeting peers and colleagues and business contacts and stuff. So I'm going to shift things around here. As has been noted, I've been doing the internet work for quite a long time. Right now, this moment of history seems to me very much like 1997, where the internet was coming onto the telecommunications market and there was going to be a lot of change in the world. We are in that mode right now in the industry. So those of you who think that just because we got the internet exchanges, some of them solved, the problem is solved, guess what? We're going to see changes in our industry over the next 5 years. It's going to astound everybody 5 years from now. One of them is this area I'm going to be talking about right now is around security. So for those people who track my write-in, my blogging, I do white papers, I teach people, I do workshops. I'm starting a whole approach called the checklist approach. And because of brevity of time, I'm going to kind of work through this. This checklist approach in Silicon Valley, there's a lot of industry groups, using the checklist approach. Now, this wasn't a surprise to me because my first 10 years in the industry was out of the United States Air Force in the military, and we use checklists all the time. It's a standard operating procedure that you do. This was kind of new to the tech industry, and this particular book was first given to me when it first came out by a friend of mine, Stephen Stewart, over at Google, and they said, we're using this all over Google, right? This approach with it. And since then, we're starting to use it within the security community so you can kind of keep track of what you need to do to lock down and secure your network from the threat. Now, why is this important? Because what happens in security is you forget a step. They're so complicated. And why is that important? You have to understand the threat vector. Go back to the Sony break-in. This is a colleague from the FBI who was quoted in the press. And understand something about the Sony break-in. It doesn't matter what organization you are, you would have been owned. And I can almost guarantee that most of you who are in organizations right now who have networks, you're going to have either the cyber criminal threat, what I call the P3 threat, and I'll explain in a minute, or the nation-state threat already in your network. All right? The dirty little secret about our industry today is we don't really have effective tools to lock down and secure our networks. Things like antivirus and the way we do our coding and things like that. Things are happening so fast that when there is an economic incentive to break in, people will figure out how to break in. So we live in this environment where, malware is out there and people will figure out how to get into your network. It's just inevitable. Now, is this going to change over time? No, because we have a world society and people live in different parts of the world with different economic factors, right? Economies are up in some places of the world and they're down in other parts of the world. And we don't have an international justice system where you can go out there and push back against crime. What we have is a bunch of autonomous system numbers and it all groups everything together, all right? So all cybercrime is international crime. And that isn't going to stop. It's not going to fix itself unless we have an international justice system. And we're not going to have an international justice system for any near future, which means we're going to have a challenge. The additional thing out there is the security industry. The good guys, a lot of times they focus on the wrong problem. Now, if I was a police officer and I came in and I investigated a bank robbery, and I went out there to the press and I started talking to the public and say, wow, that was a really interesting AK-47 used in a bank robbery. And it was nice and shiny, and it had a 30-round clip and things like this, and people will look at me and says, what are you doing as a police officer? Who robbed the bank? Where did it go? How come they got away? All right? You're focusing on the wrong problem. And what happens in the security industry is says, oh, check out this botnet, check out this malware, check out this DDoS attack, right? Wrong problem set, okay? People, it's always about some person on the other side of it, and so the good guys are not helping the problem because they're focusing on the wrong problem. Now, to help people understand this, when I go through and teach classes, I do consulting and help people out, I break the problem into three big threat vectors. So number one in the industry is a cyber criminal threat. So this is the threat that with crime you have to push back against it. You lock people up, you put people in jail. This is the biggest threat vector. This is where you have the most, right? So you're going to have a lot of cyber criminal threats out there. It's not going to stop anytime soon, right? The next one is the nation-state threat. Now, thanks to Mr. Snowden, we have a nation-state threat that is all out in the open, okay? So we all know that nations spy on each other, nations attack each other, nations steal information from each other. All right, so you have espionage, cyber warfare, all that stuff that happens out there. This is going to be increasing. All right? The issue that we all face in the nation-state threat is your network, your infrastructure is part of what we call the battle space. All right? It is the battleground. It's fair game. You can assume that your infrastructure will be infiltrated by nation-state actors. So you have the cyber criminals you have to worry about. You have the nation-state actors you have to worry about. Then you have the most critical ones, which is what I call the P3, the political, patriotic, and activist sort of groups out there. These are groups that go out there and they protest a cause. They go out there and they're, if you insult my country, I attack the other country. Give an example in Asia. Back in 2005, there was a textbook that came out in Japan, all right, for the national curriculum. All right, there's a whole bunch of people in China that did not like that it glossed over certain parts of history during the Second World War. So what happened? A bunch of patriotic kids in China got upset and they launched a massive social media-driven DDoS attack against government websites in Japan. Right? That was not any government, that was not any politically activated, there was a whole bunch of teenagers who were upset and they attacked, right? So this is the P3 threat, right? And these things do happen and they will happen, right? So these three vectors are things that are going to be impacting everyone for the foreseeable future. Now, some people would say, hey, is this going to, stop, right? So this is a nice graphic from last year of all the data breaches out there. And this is where it gets even more scary. So we don't have the tools at work. We have threat vectors we can't stop, all right? And then the third factor is people say, oh, wow, the threat is so economically damaging that it's going to motivate people to take action. So let's take a look at the top 4 break-ins, data breaches in the United States from last year, right? And let's look at their stock prices. So the little lines off to the side here, so you got these little, lines here. Here's the laser here. So here's where the breach happens. So this is the data breach, and this is the eBay home, each one of them out here, right? So Anthem, Target, right? And you got each one of them out here. So here's the data breach, and you can't see it here. You can download the slides, but what happens here is you have the data breach. You may have one day of the stock going down, and then the stock goes back up. So what is the economic drivers for things like data breaches, right? So you take like Target. Target stock is up, 80% since the data breach. And that was a big, massive attack, and it cost them money. So it cost them a bit of insurance. The CISO lost his job. Maybe a few other people got moved around internally, but there wasn't really an economic pushback. So we don't have the economics to actually correct the situation either. So we have this really interesting sort of thing. The market does not penalize people who don't do security. So cyber criminals will look at this and say, this is really good. It's a good, fruitful market. And these are our networks. So it makes it a little bit depressing about how you're going to face this. We face this in the global economy already. All right, so one proposition I put forward and why we're in the security community we're looking at using these checklist approaches is you got to look at security as a force of nature. It's just going to inevitably happen to you. If you live in Florida in the United States, a hurricane is going to hit you someday. Okay? If you live in the Midwest of the United States, a tornado is going to hit you someday. You don't know when it's going to hit you, but you got to prepare. So what happens? Right? If you live in a hurricane zone in Florida and you run a business, as a business decision maker, you got to go and mitigate risk. You talk to insurance companies, you go through and do certain things to safeguard your industry, safeguard your business, so when the hurricane does happen, you're able to recover your business. It's just a fact of life, right? If you're here in Asia, if you live in typhoon zone, you just got to know that someday a typhoon's going to hit you. Someday a flood's going to hit you, right? So you work with it. You just assume it's a force of nature and it's going to hit you. Don't close your eyes and pretend it's not going to hit you, because someday it will, right? So think of cybersecurity as a force of nature, right? You got to mitigate the risk. You got to do something about it. The question is, how much is feasible for you to do inside your organization that's cost effective? Because there's a lot of companies out there today who would love to sell you lots of cybersecurity gear, right, for lots of money that isn't actually going to mitigate your risk, right? So by viewing it as a force of nature, you're able to make mindful choices that are cost-effective for your business and not spend tons of money being paranoid thinking that buying all the latest security gadgets are going to fix all your problems, all right? Now, in this, you then run into people say, oh, wow, I don't know about security, it's hard. And I've run into all sorts of excuses from engineers, from CXOs and others. Some people will say, oh, if I just pretend it doesn't exist, it will go away. And then 6 months later, they get hit with an attack and they call back. They say it's somebody else's problem. We get this a lot. The network engineers pointed to security people, the security people pointed to sysadmin people, and they all point fingers at each other. It doesn't work. Security inside of an organization is everybody's problem. People don't know where to start. Well, we got so many materials online that are freely available today that, you know, anybody can start. Anybody can start becoming a security expert. You just start looking online, go through the YouTube videos and things like that, all right? So, one of the things I hear from people is, oh, people haven't been killed yet. I got a colleague of mine who does SCADA security, right? SCADA is that equipment like, you know, air conditioners, power generators, power production plants, chemical plants, things like that. And he was trying to figure out why we're not getting the deaths reported in the US. And he's coming out with this report over the next month, hopefully next month he'll produce it, where basically what's been going on is the safety community, who looks at safety incidents, right, have been reporting the deaths, but they're not reporting it as cybersecurity related. So you'll get incidents where malware has infected at a chemical plant. The malware infected the control computer. The control computer caused an accident which caused a death, and they're classifying it as a safety failure, not as a cybersecurity related death. But what we're finding now is we're starting to ask the right questions to the people who are actually recording the deaths, which is not the cybersecurity CISO, it's more the safety officer doing it. If you ask the right questions, we're finding out that yes, these things are actually killing people, right? And so that might be a wake-up call to others out there. So, quickly now what I'm going to do, and this is all, you can download this as a slides, and there'll be a big white paper I'm producing each one of these items that you can take back with it. But if you notice as I flip through these different, you know, this is the first part of the checklist for any big operator, whether you're a service provider, a university, enterprise. If you notice on this, you're not going to see me recommend buying any equipment. You know, a lot of the things that you need to do to start out with security, you don't need to go buy stuff. It's all in open source, it's all in the configurations, and it's all in you as allocating time to your team to go out there and make the stuff happen and writing the scripts, right? So, first thing, positive security control over every element in your network. In other words, you know, if you have something that's a local password on a Cisco switch off in the corner of the network, that's bad. Because bad guys will get inside your network and they'll figure out how to get into that switch and they'll break into it. You won't know they broke into it. So everything should be, you know, positive security control. You know, and there's different sort of best practices to do that positive security control so that way you know who's logging into where. This is also where IPv6 is your friend. There's several networks out there that what they did is they took the entire management plane and they converted it to IPv6 because they knew they had to do IPv6 and they were using Net 10. So instead of using Net 10, they just converted to IPv6. And then added a layer of obfuscation to make it more difficult for the miscreants who got into their organization who were getting in via V4, and then they had to like, okay, how do I get over the V6? And it came a point that they gave visibility to see that the bad guys who are inside the network and they're playing around inside. So this is one of the areas that several networks use V6 to do it, all right? Next one is put VTY access list. This is like a really, really, really basic one, right? It's so cheap. Now, what is VTY access list? This is where you put a packet filter on the login of whether it's a Unix server or a router or a switch, okay? And you do permit, permit, permit. Here's my address as I permit, and then deny TCP log, deny IP log. And you take those logs and you put them over in syslog. Then you take the syslog and you throw in an MRTG, okay? Story. I was teaching this back in 1999. 3 months later, I got a call from the team at CNN. And the CNN says, hey, we're going to get attacked in 2 weeks. I says, how do you know? It says, we were watching the MRTG chart that you told us to put together, and we saw that people were starting to scan our network. And in 2 weeks is the national elections. All right? So we know we're going to get attacked. We've got to start preparing. So during the elections in 2000, CNN was attacked when the Bush, Gore, everybody was, who's the president, and they were under a DOS attack at the same time, and they were able to keep the network up and running during that whole thing. So CNN.com kept it up and running. How did they find that? VTY access list. How much did that cost them? A few hours of scripting and logs. Did they need to buy expensive threat intelligence? No. You do something like this inside your network, right? Like for instance, those of you like, cell phone companies here in Indonesia or other places, you put that inside your network, and if you see the V2I access list activated like denies, then you know somebody's inside your network trying to break in your network equipment, right? Cheap, right? Cheap sort of stuff to do, right? Sit down with your vendors and start asking questions. There's a checklist that I did about 6 months ago, which is basically a very thorough, here's the questions you should be asking all your vendors when it comes to security, all right? Here's the things they should be doing. Bring them in, right? Even your existing vendors, bring them in, go through that checklist and start having those dialogues and having those conversations, right? Vendors only act when it comes to security if you as a customer starts asking them the questions and pushing them. If you don't push them, they don't act, right? And they can be and how much does that cost you? It takes time, right? So you see the consistent theme here. The core cost of security is not so much the equipment, it's actually the time to make it happen. Sit down and do your upgrade plans. There's so many times, if you know there's going to be security vulnerabilities out there, you know you're going to have to upgrade, right? There's many networks that I've seen, they go out there and deploy the network, they get the network and the service up and running, and then they don't know how to upgrade the equipment because they never sat down and says, how is my upgrade plan? How do I upgrade the system in such a way that minimizes the impact on my users? How do I do the emergency upgrades, right? Again, what's this cost you? This is time. Time to sit down and plan to actually do the upgrade work. Check all the V6 when it comes to security. There's another checklist I did on IPv6 requirements. Much of those requirements are around security. And when you start your V6, finish your V6. The dirty little secret in the cyber criminal community is around 5 years ago, the cyber criminals found out that people are starting to deploy V6. And they start to deploy V6 and they do it halfway. I deploy it on my gateway. I get my V6s advertised. I connect it up to my routers and my switches. Oh, the firewall doesn't support V6. Okay, stop. Danger. Now the bad guys go, I can use IPv6, and there's no firewall in the way. And I can use that to start getting into the network. And so that's when we started seeing the miscreants use V6 as control channels because your IPS and firewall didn't detect V6. So I get into the network, I fire up the malware, and I can do V6, and there's no detection. So I use my IPv6 into my command and control network, right? So if you start the V6, finish the V6. If you start the V6, make sure all your vendors support all the features with it. If they don't, then find a different vendor, right? There's enough maturity with V6 right now that you can find the right vendor around it, right? Sit down with your teams and build attack trees. So many people say, oh, wow, I need to hire security consultants to come in and do all this security work. You don't need to do that. You can go out there and use your own team and come up with these tools, and my next blog article is going to give several exercises where you can take your team, sit down, and all you need is a whiteboard and an open source tool called FreeMind, and you can come up with all sorts of techniques, all sorts of ways you can break your network. You don't need a consultant to come and tell your team how to break your network. Your team knows how to break your network. Your team can, once they start thinking like an attacker, they can start saying, here's how I can actually do some damage to my network. Right? You don't need to hire expensive consultants to do it. Your people already know how to do this. You just need to put them in a room, give them the time, use a tool like an attack tree, and you can figure it out. Write down your BGP policy. There's so many people I sit down and say, explain to me what your BGP pairing policy is, and they have to go to their Cisco or their Juniper and to do a show config and to figure out what the BGP policy is. And I'm serious, sit down and write it down. Who do I send routes to? Who would I receive routes to, right? Make it in plain English. Use it like a user story in an agile network and write it down so the CXOs can explain what your BGP peering policy is. Then do your configurations off of that. Now the reason why I say that is when we do the postmortems of oops, I advertised the internet or advertised half the internet out my link because I didn't have my filters set up correctly, was a lot of times when you talk to the guys, off to the side where there's no embarrassment, it's because they didn't really think through certain things and they missed some filters. If you sit down and you write down the BGP parent policies, it makes it easier to actually put up these filters and your mechanisms to protect yourself. All right, so write it down so anybody can understand that the days of just having your policy and your show config doesn't work anymore. All right? And then most importantly, review your DNS architecture. All right? One of the things that we saw was in 2004, we had several outages where you had DNS resolver networks and they were a single layer. In other words, you had the DNS resolvers that the customers of a broadband service went to get your DNS resolution. The inside address and the outside address were identical. So it was very easy for an attacker to go out there and attack the resolver clusters and take down all the resolver addresses, which means you had a complete service outage. Right? This is something that I've been talking to several of the key people, Paul Makapetras, Cricket, Lou, we're all talking about coming up and rethinking how we actually teach DNS architecture build-outs because it's not well taught and it's something that we have to really rethink in the industry. You know, and to give you some examples of that, a DNS, this is something I use in the tutorial in a white paper where I talk about a typical DNS resolver address. And you notice in here, whoops, go back, for this is authoritative domains. So in the authoritative domain, you know, I got my DNS hidden master, I got my key server over here because I'm doing DNSSEC, all right? All this infrastructure is hidden, not publicly accessible. It's all protected between, you know, with a robust firewall. Then I do my public exposure. This is all the public exposure stuff, all right? You go pull up Cricket's book and Cricket says, yeah, I don't explain it in that way, all right? But then what will happen is people will put the key server where it's publicly exposed. There's several cases where I saw authoritative DNS and I go like, oh wow, okay, I can hit the hidden master publicly, I can hit the key server publicly. That's not good. It's not hidden with it, all right? This is a resolver infrastructure, all right? Resolver, this is the users over here, they're trying to get the, you know, translate to google.com or akamai.net or whatever, you know. These servers right here are the ones that need to go to, but then nobody's setting up forwarders, all right? So that way if I do an attack, I don't want to get these servers here, I want to protect those servers. All right? That's what forwarders are in place for, so you can set up these architectures. So reviewing your DNS architecture is one of the things that is, I think, over the next couple of years, I think everybody's going to have to look at because these are places that bad guys do attack and will increasingly attack. As we've seen with the DNS reflection attacks over the last 2 years, you know, it's one of the points that the cybercriminal community uses. Now, and understand what elements out there. All right, LTE network. An LTE network has 5 distinct DNS architectural modules. Each module is a separate design architecture. All right? How you design your authoritative server here, how you design your resolver for your customer is different from your infrastructure DNS, which is doing all IPv6 for internal addressing, which is different from your enum, for your DNS Roman, which is different from your APN. Now, I bring this up because here in Indonesia, because I've been, you know, last 2.5 years, I was actually here in Indonesia, we're doing an LTE design exercise, all right? 4 vendors, 4 major vendors, big vendors. They all come in, and with the LTE design, they were putting the APN, the DNS Roman, the infrastructure, the resolver, and the authoritative all in the same DNS box, right? All 4 big ones. My jaw was dropped. I was going, okay, we have a problem in the industry. These vendors don't know what they're doing, okay? Which is why I'm bringing this up. I'm not bringing this up because it's like something out there. I'm bringing this up because I'm talking to the experts, and the experts don't know what they're talking about with this, which is why I immediately pinged Cricket and pinged Paul and said, hey, we need to start rethinking this, all right? So this is something that I'm already talking to some people at APNIC because DNS, APNIC, teaching, things like this. We do classes. This is one of the stuff we do in the community here. So you'll hear more of that, all right? The next thing is groups like this, APNIC. There's a security SIG. There's other groups out of it. There's Apricot. Security is not something you can do by yourself. You can't sit and do it. The community, you know, security and securing your network is a community activity. It's critical when something happens to your network, you need to be able to pick up the phone or get on WhatsApp or get on a chat and start talking to your peers and get some help, right? And you have to invest in that before it happens, right? Our number one most powerful security tool that we have in the industry is the community of people you build up over time, so when things happen to your network, everybody can help each other, right? Because the internet is a big collective. The internet is all about us and people, and we keep this network growing and expanding, right? And so taking time to get to know people here at APNIC is also part of your security job, because you never know when you need to call somebody up and get their help, right? So this is one of the things out there. Now there's all sorts of things you can do to build community, right? But the key thing is at a forum like this, get their name cards, talk to them, right? 6 months from now, you may be pulling out their name card and quickly calling them, hey, I need some help. I need to stop a DDoS attack. Can you help me? Can you black hole over here, right? You never know when that's going to happen, right? So this is a checklist summary. There's more to come. What do you do next? Connect up over with me. I'm publishing these on LinkedIn, publishing on my blogs. I'm publishing on the APNIC blog. We'll also be doing, there's classes on development, so many of you, who used the BGP class that, originally I was doing with Philip Smith and still taught APNIC classes like that. These are sort of things we give back. So APNIC is one of the places you're gonna find these resources, right, to pull up with it. So track it through here, follow it, and then also ask questions, because one of the best ways for me to be able to actually build materials to help you is for you guys to ask me questions, and then we figure out how to solve the answer together. All right, so thank you very much. And if you guys have questions afterwards, during the break, I'm around. You can find me. Thank you.
Thanks, Barry. And as Barry said, if you are the first time APNIC conference newcomers, please take time to interact with all the speakers and presenters. And also, the security requires cooperation and collaboration among everyone. So now I have a great pleasure inviting the Honorable Minister, Mr. Rudy Antara, Minister of Communications and Information Technology, to address us. Mr. Rudy Antara.
Colleagues of APNIC, Paul, Pak Sanjaya, and also from APJI, Pak Jamal, Pak Henry Kaswik. We have also Pandi here, Pak Andi, and all distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. May peace be upon us. Very good morning as well. I must apologize. I supposed to be in this room at 9 o'clock, but I was quote-unquote caught. At 8 o'clock, I was in the Ministry of Research and Technology office. I didn't know that I supposed to deliver words or speech on that event, which was attended by 4 ministers. And I feel ashamed, to be frank with you, to be led in this such important event. I think the 40th APNIC. However, first of all, I would like to thanks to APJI and APNIC by hosting this event. I want to learn a lot actually in the world of Internet things. Why? Because government of Indonesia right now is very aggressive, quote unquote, in implementing what we call is the broadband plan of Indonesia. Now, if we are talking on broadband, to my humble knowledge, that we have to deal with the 3 things, what we call is DNA or AND. And I consider the Internet things, and one of the hottest topic lately is on the security, which was delivered by the previous speaker, was on the security things, as part of the applications. And then I rely a lot, to be frank with you, with APJI in this regard, even for to addressing the regulatory or regulations issue within this within the internet aspect in Indonesia. I rely more on the APJI and its member. Why? Because this internet things is very dynamic in Indonesia, and the government, we would not pretend that we know everything, then we won't regulate everything. You know, to me, the best regulation is less regulation, and also would like to thanks to APJI that we would like to say to push the regulations issues to be addressed by all of us by pushing them into the quote-unquote more self-regulatory industry of internet in Indonesia. While the government will focus on the other two factor, which is N and D. What is N? N is the stand for networks, which is by the previous speakers. When I tried to digest, that actually what the presenters deliver was not only based on application, it's already touched the infrastructures. And on the, again, from the network side, is part of the infrastructures. We are pushing on the fixed broadband solution and wireless broadband solution. And for wireless broadband solutions, now we are pushing on the implementation of the 4G. We have did it in the band of 900. Now we are in the process of refarming on the band of 1800, which I expected to be concluded by end of this year. So basically by January 1st, 2016, people in Indonesia may expect to have the service of 4G in the 1800, where the ecosystem considered the best compared to other band of frequency of the 4G LTE. That is on the network side. On the access, well, on the backbone, the government is in the process of implementing what we call is the broadband Palaparing of Indonesia. That we have objective to connect all of the capital of region and the major city throughout Indonesia. We have more than 500. Probably unlike in the other country, our neighboring country, we are very fast country in terms of geographic, and we are pretty much archipelago country. So the challenge for us to implement this broadband transmission or backbone also is not as easy as other country. So by 2018, all capital of regions and major city has to be connected. I wish I could do that. I wish we could do that through fiber optic, physical fiber optic, but it depends on the terminal at the end. The biggest challenge would be in the eastern part of Indonesia, in the island of Papua, because from geographical point of view, it is very difficult to implement or to deploy the fiber optic, unless we have road or whatever it is connected from one region to another region. And the third one is, I think this is also very important, is from device point of view. Let's talk on the numbers. We have, in Indonesia, we have more than 300 million SIM cards available in the market, more than Indonesia population itself. That's number one. But from the internet point of view, if I'm not mistaken, to the last APJI research, we have around 80 million internet users in the country. So, but out of 330 million, it is estimated only 160 to 170 million say exclusive or unique account of cellular users. That means we still have a gap between the number of users And then the cellular subscriber, we still have 80 million left, And if we refer into the system of the cellular network operators, currently only around less than 40% of the total subscriber, of the total subscribers are using a smartphone, while the rest is still using the features phone. So if we compare those numbers, actually we still have the gap, that not all the smartphone users are using internet. Now this is becoming the challenge for us. So the government plan is to push into the people to use more smartphone. Why? In order for them to have an access into to the internet. By doing what? By issuing the policy on the local content. So we'll incentivize for the 4G handset manufacturers or suppliers to have some sort of facilities in the country, which will be applied by January 1st, 2007. I think by implementing this strategy, the government would like to push this broadband implemented as soon as possible. And then automatically, the use of internet will also be boosted by this strategy, through this strategy. Currently, Indonesia position in the ASEAN country on ICT, we are still number 4 after Singapore, Malaysia, Thailand, Indonesia. By implementing this strategy, which is the broadband strategy, we are expecting by the 2019, this is quite aggressive indeed, by 2019 that we will be number 2 in the region in terms of the broadband after Singapore. Of course, we cannot compete with the Singapore as the country, but from the service point of view, I do believe that we will able to be par with Singapore or other major capital in the ASEAN countries, particularly for Java. We have discussed even with the governor of governor of Jakarta, how can we implement the broadband in Jakarta. Probably some of you have an experience that particularly with Indonesians, they're very difficult to have an access to the high-rise building, because it is not mandatory for high-rise building to provide some sort of the common ducting or common infrastructure for either for ISP, internet service provider, or even for the cellular operators. So the governor of Jakarta promised me to issue his decree in order to support our national broadband plan. Again, this is something that I would like to share with you. We are ready to implement the broadband plan of Indonesia in order not only to support the internet, I think, but the internet also becoming the broadband plan of Indonesia. By this, I would like to conclude my words and also wishing you to have the fruitful 40th APNIC conference in Indonesia and enjoy Jakarta. Thank you very much. Should you wish to have some question or whatever it is, I will be very happy to entertain you. Otherwise, I have to leave this meeting room, and this meeting will be conducted until the 10th of September, right? Until Thursday. I wish I could join also one of the sessions, because I would like to absorb, I would like to learn a lot on this internet world. Consider me, I'm the new kid on the blocks on the internet world. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Rudiantara. Now I would like to invite the Director General of APNIC, Paul Wilson, to present a memento to the Minister.
This is the most expensive gift. It only cost me 10 minutes to stand here to get this gift. Thank you very much, Paul, and have a success for Epinik and Abji. Thank you very much.
Selamat datang di Apinik 40. Senang sekali melihat jumlah peserta yang sangat besar. Dan saya harap acara ini memberikan manfaat yang besar untuk Anda semua. I hope I got that right. What I was trying to say was welcome to Apinik 40. It's great to see so many here, and I hope this event brings you great benefits, lots of fun, etc., etc. Thank you very much to the Minister for your time to be here and give us what was really, I think, a very open-minded, frank, interesting speech about what your plans are in Indonesia. And as the 7th largest economy in terms of internet usage, I think we're in the right place for Apinik 40. It's a great pleasure to be here. I'm very pleased to be in Indonesia with all of you. I've just heard that we've exceeded 600 registrations for this meeting, which is a record for our summertime, Northern Hemisphere summertime meeting. So thank you all for making the trip here. Thanks. I should thank APCI, of course, our local host, and all our sponsors for helping to make Apinik 40 a reality here. And again, a special thank you to the Minister for making time in what's an incredibly busy schedule for you. As the Minister, I think, illustrated, Indonesia does have a vibrant internet economy. It was just a few years ago, actually, that Indonesia hosted the 2013 Internet Governance Forum here in Bali, and that's when I think the world saw how strong the internet community is here. That was an amazing effort by everyone involved, the technical community, business groups, civil society, academics and so on, governments as well, to pull together one of the most successful internet governance forums at that time. And it's when all parts of the community are so active that the internet can be really strengthened, because healthy growth of the internet is healthy growth in all dimensions. It's not just the number of users, it's the number of ISPs, the number of services and businesses. I think we see that diversity here in the room. We see it also in the membership of APCI as a very effective community organisation in Indonesia. I met someone actually last night who runs an ISP in Bali which provides services for hotels. They're laying optical fibres, they're laying wireless backbone links, they're managing wireless networks for guests of hotels. And he said he's one of 30 legal ISPs doing this in Bali. So it strikes me that if you've got 30 legal and who knows how many illegal ISPs, you really do have a vibrant internet industry. And I think that's in some way to be encouraged. So the growth of the internet in Indonesia, like in the rest of the world, is going to continue. I think as Barry said to us just earlier, there are 3 billion people on the internet, perhaps 20 billion devices. By 2020 we'll have at least another billion and perhaps another 20 billion devices. The thing is, the majority of this growth is going to be happening in our region, and a lot of it here in Indonesia. So we've got a great deal of work to do together. One thing is clear, and it must be clear, is that IPv4 cannot keep stretching out to support the growth of the internet at this rate. IPv6 is the only way, and I hope that everyone here learns what you need to learn about that this week. I mean, it's fortunate, it's very good to report that V6 is finally growing in a very healthy and positive direction. Google reports around 8% right now and growing of their internet traffic is being delivered over IPv6. So that's doubled in the last year. And alongside that, we've got APNIC Labs measuring around 25% of all users in the United States that are now IPv6 capable. So you've heard the IPv6 message many times, I know, maybe for the last 10 years, but we're actually now at the point where IPv6 is real and deployment is happening and it's growing. So if your organisation hasn't begun taking steps towards IPv6 adoption, then I really do urge you to start. If your business or your work depends on the internet, then it's going to depend on IPv6. And now is the time to be asking those who provide you with services of any kind, internet services, ICT services, including your upstream ISPs and your vendors and data centers, your DNS providers, your security providers, your developers, your staff and your consultants. It's time to ask them when and how they'll support IPv6 in the future. It's very much as Barry said, the kind of conversation that you need to have about security, you need to have it about IPv6 as well. And don't be surprised if you're asked the same question yourself. In fact, you need to be prepared for that, because this is going to be a competitive advantage for you, but only if you have the right answer. So it sort of seems strange that when IPv6 is no longer new, I could say that there is an early adopter advantage for IPv6 today. So that includes all of you. It includes Indonesia as a country to move now and take advantage of that position. So the internet's becoming more important to Indonesia, and it's becoming more important to Indonesians. And it's really important to step up and have a say in how the internet serves the Indonesian society, the global society, and how it is governed here and around the world. It's kind of a shame, actually, that while the internet in the Asia Pacific is growing fastest, it's the biggest, and it's growing fastest of any part in the world, our voices are often missing from global discussions about the future of the internet. And one of the discussions that's going on right now, it's really running hot right now, and you'll hear about it this week, is the discussion about what's called the IANA stewardship transition. That's the transfer of responsibility for the oversight of the Internet Assigned Numbers Authority from the United States NTIA to the global internet community. Now this is important because in some way we all depend on IANA's functions, including IPv4 and IPv6 and ASN, Autonomous System Number Registries, and also the DNS services, the support for the root name servers and the root zone of the DNS. And the stability and accountability of those functions is really of primary importance to APNIC, to the community here, to everyone on the internet, to all of us. So since the US government announcement about the transition, which happened last year, there's been a global cross-community process underway to develop a plan for this transitional process. So in the numbers community, the APNIC and other RIR communities, it was the CRISP team, the Consolidated RIR IANA Stewardship Proposal team, that coordinated our regional discussions, and they produced a proposal at the beginning of this year for the numbering community as part of the global plan for the overall IANA transition. So that plan actually assembled the proposals of 3 communities, ours and 2 others. And that proposal was finalised about 6 weeks ago, and it's been open for community comment now for that period. And today is actually the last day for comments on that important global plan for the IANA transition. But you're going to have a chance to participate in this because we have a special session on the IANA transition later this afternoon. And after that, if you need to, I'm sure you'll all find yourselves fully informed about the IANA transition and what it's all about. And you'll have the opportunity, if you like, to make some very last-minute comments into that public comment process. And I'd really strongly encourage you to do that, as I say, to have the voice of the Asia-Pacific internet community heard in this important global process. So while talking of IANA, I do want to acknowledge the presence here of someone special, of Elise Garrick, who is with us on this side of the room. Elise has kindly joined us here in Jakarta for this session and to tell us more about what IANA has been up to lately. And as IANA's General Manager, Elise plays a critical role today and also in the future of the IANA transition. But not only that, I want to mention that Elise was there at the beginning of the RAR process. In fact, she wrote the original proposal, RFC 1366, back in 1993, and that was the proposal for the establishment of RIRs. So without Elise, in fact, none of us would be here right now at all, and thank you so much, Elise, for that contribution and everything you've done since. So whether we've been personally involved or not in this process so far, I think we all should be proud of the community effort that's gone into the IANA transition planning process in what has been a short and intensive period of time. I want to thank everyone from the APNIC community and others who've really made critical contributions to the process. Now, the IANA transition is just one example of this kind of self-determination which we're able to exercise in building the internet, in making it work in the best way for all of us. And we can all play a part in this through participation. And we heard the word community, I think, quite a bit already today, but by joining into communities around us, the network operator groups, groups like APNIC, Apricot, APTLD, APCERT, APIX, ISOC, ICANN and others. So by lending our voices through those communities, we really can contribute. And last but not at all least, particularly today, by using open channels with our governments who are all in some way or other trying their best to navigate the internet space for the public good that is their responsibility. So again, thanks to Minister Rudiantara, and I think he made it clear today that his door is open, and I would really strongly urge the Indonesian community in particular to go to that door and use that door, because it's really quite a rare thing, I can tell you, to hear a minister come and give the kind of speech that we heard this morning, and to make that offer to you. So no single person, company or organisation, as Johar said, runs the internet, and its stewardship is actually in our hands, and that's what is meant actually by this word, the multi-stakeholder nature of the internet. I really do encourage you to take a role in defining its future, and I hope that by being here you're showing your eagerness to do that. So before I close, special thanks again to APGI. They've been a great partner for this conference as the National Internet Registry for Indonesia, of course, and one of the most successful NIRs in the region, I have to say. We've worked closely with APGI for many years, actually. Back in 2007, they hosted Apricot in Bali, which included the APNIC annual meeting at that time, as it does today. Since then, many smaller events, including a lot of trainings and workshops with APNIC staff, and of course the IGF in 2013, which was a major event on the global stage. So our partnership with APGI goes back for more than 15 years. I want to take the chance to wish you in advance happy 20th next year. I really look forward to that. So it's been a privilege working with you, both the current and many of the past officers of APGI, who are all, I know, very much dedicated to internet development in Indonesia. And I'm sure that we will continue to work very well together into the future. So again, thank you all. I really hope you enjoy your week very much. Thanks.
Thank you, Paul. That concludes our opening ceremony. The morning tea is served just outside the room. The next session will be APOPS 1 in this room. Let's take a short break, maybe around 10 minutes, and Jude join us back in this room for the next session. I'd like to invite the VIPs to come up on the stage for a group photograph, please, and including this technical speakers. Thank you. Thank you all for your participation.
didn't know how to do it, but they just rushed off. I don't know if they're going to come back or not. I'm not sure. I'll leave it to Paul. How much?
Cheek, 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 cheek. Cheek, 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 cheek. Cheek, cheek, cheek. Satu dua. Cheek, 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 cheek. Cheek, cheek. Cheek, 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 cheek. Cheek, cheek, cheek.